What if I told you that there is a NFL book that is signed by 33 Super Bowl MVPs and weighs almost 100 pounds? Would you believe me? I'm a little worried how we're going to get it off the shelf because it's the heaviest thing here in the library, but we called in an expert. This is a wood cover. It's actually very well done. The rest of the book, I don't know that it's executed as well as it could be. It's certainly not a Toshin, that's for sure. But as you can see, these books don't age well in a sense. Like they're cracking. There's quite a few pictures, I guess, in here that have not been published before. You know, the NFL does such a great job, NFL films. Some of the more famous Super Bowl ads. The Apple one of my favorites. Lombardi. God, look at these images. That's so great. Reggie White. Joe. Oh. Jerry Rice. That's when the Steelers beat my Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Painful. They don't make football stadiums like that anymore. These images in person, like they look incredible here on the camera, but they're nuts in person. This is when Joe Namath guaranteed a win, right? Oh, look at that. It's a great quote. The thing I cannot quite decide is this: have I just watched one of the greatest football games ever played, or the worst? America's team, the Cowboys. That's a great quote. Miami running back Mercury Morris. They came to win, we came to play. This was the year I was born. That's them with Sinatra. But isn't this the 1972? I believe is the year that the Dolphins went undefeated, right? It's like the perfect season, I think. Oh, look at that. Good old Rose Bowl in Los Angeles. Good old Don Shula. I wonder when this picture was taken if he knew that he would own a bunch of steakhouses. The only adjective you could put on this team today is great. You just can't deny football players of the type that I have on the Dolphins. It's cool. Probably a lot of you are young and you never went to a football game where you had to bring your own pad. Like that used to be a revenue stream for stadiums, is they would sell you a pad to sit on because the benches were so uncomfortable. I think maybe you still have that in college a little bit today, but that literally was the case for NFL stadiums. When I was a kid, I remember. So I'm going to flip these a little bit quicker, but if there's one here that you really like, I will try to give it enough time that you could pause it on the image, pause the video if you wanted to. Oh, it's Bruce Springsteen. This is when the Super Bowl is becoming a bigger event now. We're not at the point yet where the Super Bowl is a halftime show is produced by Disney, but it's more of an event. This is now we're at 1977. We here have interacted with Terry Bradshaw a couple times for some stuff, and he is a great guy. This is when the Rams were, I think, in LA, right? Well, they were technically in Orange County, I believe, but they said they're the Los Angeles Rams, kind of like the Angels say they're the Los Angeles or the Angels of Los Angeles. But they're really in Orange County. Wow, these images are just stunning. Look at all the padding. That looks like a weapon. Raiders. Raiders. I think Raiders fans are my favorite fans. I have quite a few friends and family that are Raider fans. There he is, Joe Montana. The West Coast offense. People didn't believe we'd make the playoffs. We started winning big games, and people still didn't believe us. Even the coaches around the league, most of them picked against us in the Super Bowl. People didn't start to believe in us until, about 2 minutes ago. Joe Montana. That's funny. Historically, Joe Montana is not you would not call him an extrovert. Not a lot of charisma. Wow. Rose Bowl again. I'm going to guess those pictures from overhead are from a blimp. Dan Marino. It's a great picture. When I was a kid, I used to have a Dan Marino jersey. So I lived in Tijuana, Mexico when I was younger, and so it was the Chargers. And we would go to Charger games sometimes. I was allowed to watch the Chargers on TV. So I was a Dan Fouts, Kellen Winslow, but I never had their jerseys, but I had a Dan Marino jersey. The Bears. The greatest defenses of all time. Their offense wasn't bad. So this is one of the special things about this book is that it has these 20 by 24 Polaroid land camera, which is a special camera. I'm assuming. I don't know. But I think at the time when they had them sign this, and I'm sure they had them sign the page before it was in the book, I'm guessing. But they took these pictures of them, and they're pretty cool. It's great. Yeah, and then you have these fold outs. So it's the book is signed here. So these are signatures in the book. Joe Namath signed it. And then you got Joe Montana and Tom Brady, which is pretty cool. The Tom Brady is pretty awesome. So it's kind of, in a sense, it's signed by them twice, which is really, really cool. I know there's other versions of this book, but what makes this one special is all of the signatures of the MVPs and then these shots. Look at that Jerry Rice shot. Just look at his eyes. I met Jerry Rice once, and he just has that energy of just somebody who is on another level. I don't know. He's not one for small talk, I guess is the best way to put it. Oh, how great was that? Lawrence Taylor and Bill. It's crazy when you look at how many times the Redskins were in the Super Bowl, and then to think now they're the Commanders, which I personally, whether they should change their name or not is one debate, but the other one is the Commanders isn't a very, I don't know, it sounds like a racehorse to me. Doesn't sound like a football team. Lots of 49ers. It's painstaking being a Seahawks fan how much the 49ers have won, and also just like even this year, just how fun they are to watch. They're a fun team to watch. Jerry Rice. I have friends that will debate whether, well, it's not even a debate. They're adamant that Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. But I think that the numbers tell a different story. I get being a fan, and I don't know that it has to take anything away from Joe Montana that Tom Brady has just won more. Like I think it's funny too when some of these quarterbacks. I always thought this with Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, where these guys say they want to win a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, to a degree, is the same also. And then they're signing these $50 million a year contracts. When Tom Brady, the guys that have won Super Bowls consistently usually take a more team friendly contract because it's hard to pay your quarterback 40, 50 million and have a line and a defense, and just hard. So I always think that's kind of a funny contradiction, is like Russell Wilson's agent would do all this stuff in the press and create all this turmoil and put out lists of who they wanted to be traded to and this and that, and then he'd sign a huge contract, and then kind of look at what he did to Denver too. Um, I think if you want to win Super Bowls, it can't be just about the money. And frankly, a lot of these quarterbacks have great careers after football and make a lot of money. So once you've made $100 million, I don't know that you need 200, but by your early 30s. Just my opinion. I'd rather win Super Bowls personally. If I have 50 million or if I have 100 million, I can still live in the same house. There's not much you can't do. And I get somewhere you're like, well, you pay the agent and taxes and all that. Yeah, I guess. But like in a sense, this book is a history book, right? And look at all of these faces playing and winning the Super Bowl. Like I'd rather be in the history books than have 200 million in the bank versus 100 million personally. But I guess I have a different view of money. I don't see it the same way. Steve Young, not Montana. Great quarterback though. Good old Emmett. Dion. That was a team that was fun to watch too. The Cowboys. So what year is this? Let me see what. Uh, well, that was 96. Brett Favre. That's his locker. I'm guessing that's something that his kids made him. The champions. They spell like I do. Shannon Sharp. Funny if you went back then and asked him if he thought he'd have a crazy podcast with Cat Williams and Lynch and all kinds of controversy, what he would say. He would probably not understand what you were asking him because nobody knew what a podcast was back then. Hot Atlanta Falcons. Here we go, where the halftime shows are starting to become nonsense and crazy. Oh man, how good were the Rams back then? Greatest show on turf. Ravens Giants. I met Ray Lewis once at believe it or not, the Playboy Mansion at an SB Warren Moon's SB party. And two things. One is he wasn't as big as I thought. Two, really, really nice guy.
So that was Christian McCaffrey, age 2.
God, how good was he? Just his presence on the field. Another one of those great defenses. It's hard to say who was the best defense of all time, but they were one of them. That is for sure. Tom Brady, Mr. Football. Oh, I think this is when yeah, so this was the halftime where U2 played and they put up all the names from 9/11. Everybody that was killed in that, I guess we could call it an attack. What a touching moment that was, man. So when Gruden, right, I think leaves the Raiders, goes to Tampa, and then beats the Raiders in the Super Bowl, beats his old team with his new team. Groundhog's Day, Brady again. Oh, this is the Super Bowl where we got to see Janet's nipple, and then the FCC went crazy and created a bunch of drama. I love watching the mic'd ups of Tom Brady. So crazy. Okay, so here's this my beloved Seahawks. That's Sean Alexander. He was our running back. I used to call him Sean right through the heart of the hot dog Alexander. He was incredible until he I think tore his ACL and then he was never the same. But man, he was fun. I think that's where we're at. Maybe not yet. That's where we lost to the Steelers. I remember I had a Super Bowl party that year that was epic. Here we go. Steelers 21, Seattle Seahawks 10. Wah, wah, wah. I mean, being a Seahawks fan, just the fact that we were there was crazy. And then you started to kind of think, oh, we could win, but we couldn't. We didn't. No, I guess the Rolling Stones were the halftime show. Oh, so painful. So painful. Hines Ward, he was the MVP, I think, that year. The signatures of all the 40 years of MVPs. It's pretty crazy. You got Joe Montana, Steve Young, Brady again, Bart Starr, Joe Namath. I think it was there's 33, I think, because some of them passed away. So great. There's a few things about this book that are really, really special. One is that it is a very collectible book because I think there's only 15,000 of them in circulation or something like that. They didn't make a huge run of them, and I do not believe until this day that it's been republished or reprinted. The second thing is that a lot of coaches from the NFL all the way to Pop Warner consider this book to be the Bible of how to run a team, basically. And then probably the third one and the most evident to me is what a labor of love this book was, in the sense that the curation of it is incredible. It's not an easy book to pull off. The detail and content is incredible. So, and then I guess maybe if you wanted to have a fourth one, just that the other part of this is the mindset that Bill Walsh had that created the West Coast offense, and kind of his ideologies on things is groundbreaking at the time. So one thing to kind of understand about this is that this is Bill Walsh's book in a sense, but I think Brian Billick and James Patterson did more of it. I think, I don't know. I know Billick had a big part in the book. And then the foreword is by Mike Holmgren, former Green Bay Packers head coach and the Seattle Seahawks. But the book is called Finding the Winning Edge. There are some of these online for sale. I've had this one a while. They usually, in not great condition, sell for about $500, and then you can see them all the way up to a couple $1,000. But it literally goes through like how to run a team, how to run a practice, traveling, how to evaluate players, acquire talent, develop them, the handling of a pro athlete. It's just incredible. The idea to create this book is, incredible. Like I said, it's nuts. So this is a really, really fun one in the library. Next is when I was a kid, I played Pop Warner football in Washington State, and we got to play during halftime at a Seattle Seahawks game in the Kingdome, and we got to meet the Seahawks. And I don't know, we played for 5 minutes at halftime, but it was just incredible to be able to be on the field. And we got to sit to the side and behind the Seahawks during the game. So you got to see the logistics, how everything kind of worked. And after, Steve Largent came up to us and handed us his sweatbands, and I got one of his sweatbands. And so this is a signed book by Steve Largent, Hall of Fame player, and great Seahawk. And then this one, I mean, this book has so many feelings for me. So this is a signed edition of Pete Carroll's Win Forever. The cover of this changed when he went to the Seahawks, but this is the cover when he was with USC, and it's live, work, and play like a champion. And I love Pete Carroll so much, like for so many reasons. One is his philosophy and just his overall attitude on things. But I also, being a Seahawks fan, have so many things that I feel like could have been done better. And, at the time of filming this, he's no longer with the Seahawks. And when they announced that he was leaving the Seahawks, I felt literally like my father had been fired. Which is weird because, I've never really had a father, but I used to watch every one of his press conferences, and I mean, there's so many things that I wish he would have adapted in his leadership, because he gets so much of the part that most people don't get. And he's one of those rare coaches that doesn't believe that you can't care about people and still manage and lead them, in a sense, that, hey, it's just business. Pete doesn't think that way, which I admire and agree with. But I feel like he allowed things to get too loose, in a sense, and didn't have enough, discipline and clear boundaries with a lot of stuff, which ended up being the downfall, I think, of what they had going there, which was so special at the Seahawks, and now is over. But those are my favorite NFL books. If you're watching this before the Super Bowl, I hope you have a great time watching it with friends and family. And it's an American tradition. It's a holiday. And thanks for hanging out with me.